Welcome to the introductory Learn to Play video of Podium SC4ESD Erasmus Plus project game. These are the game's components. The funds, coins that we will be using during the game, the event and policy decks, and the game board. On the game board you will also see the markers which move alongside the tracks. During the setup of the game, we place the board in the middle of the table, the funds in a nearby position, as well as the 6 decks of the game. In addition, we place the markers, the policy markers on number 5 and the round marker on number 1. The game is played in 10 rounds. During each round, all players will go through the 4 phases of the game: the preparation, the plan proposal, the debate and investment phase, and finally the implementation phase. At the end of each round, the players will check for victory. At the beginning of the game, each player will be allocated to one of the 5 policies and will be supporting its goals. At the beginning of the preparation phase, each player will receive 5 funds and 1 card. In the first preparation phase, each player will instead receive 3 cards and 8 funds. We have already attributed the cards and the funds to the players for our example. During the plan proposal phase, each player, starting with the first player called the Podium, will check their cards and then select either to play a card or not. So, for example, assuming that we have Peace as our Podium player, the Peace player will select 1 card, place it on the Podium slot, and allocate half its funds rounded up on the card to indicate that he is moving forward with that card. The next player, in our case partnership, will have the opportunity now to propose an additional plan or pass. We will assume that the partnership player chooses to play an additional card. It is placed on the next slot, and similarly the player will place half the funds. The first card would costed 7 funds, which means that the first player placed 4 funds on it, while the second one only costs 6, which means that 3 funds will be placed. However, it is placed in a slot indicating extra funds, so the player will also discard 1 extra fund. The prosperity player will then check their card and decide to pass. The planet player will decide that they do indeed want to move forward with a plan. So they will play a card on the allocated slot, which costs 8. They would have to pay half of its cost, and then additionally they would have to discard 2 extra funds, because the slot indicates that it costs extra funds to play the card. The next player, people, will look at their cards and decide that they do not wish to play any cards, so they will pass. Once this phase is done, the players, starting with the Podium, will discuss about the plans and seek for extra investments. So the Peace player will read the card out loud, media speech on sustainability, and then they would read either the bottom part of the card, which is an informatory text on the topic, or they would try within 1 minute to convince the other players about the benefits of their card in terms of the goal it represents. After this is done, the next player who has played the card will read the card, which is a resource and strategy-based collaboration, and similarly will try to explain the benefits as they understand them for their card. Lastly, the third player has played sustainable forestry practices, and similarly they will promote their plan. After all plan promotions have been done, the players, starting with the one next to the Podium, will decide to either spend extra funds on a card or pass. Partnership will choose to spend one fund on the planet card. They cannot pass yet because no plans have been funded so far. The prosperity player will decide to spend 3 funds on the peace card, thus making it funded, and 1 extra fund. Now, planet has the option to pass since at least one plan has been funded. The planet card has 7 funds on them, which meets the initial cost. The people's player will now decide to fund additional cards if they want. They will decide to spend an additional 3 on this card, the planet card, which makes also the planet card funded, and pass their turn. Lastly, peace will decide to not play any additional funds. Those who have already spent funds now get the chance to spend extra funds, but let's assume that they decided to keep the remaining funds. This brings us to the end of the debate phase and the beginning of the implementation phase. The card with the most funds, in our case the planet card, will be funded. As a funded card, the funds are returned to the pool. The effects are applied. In this case, the card provides +2 in planet and +1 in prosperity. And the card that has been implemented is now discarded face down next to the board. The other cards that have been funded, in our case the planet card, would be discarded providing only +1 to their respective policy. So that would mean +1 to peace. Alternatively, if the players wish, they can collectively pay a specific amount which would instead allow the card to implement its effect. In our case, since it is a peace or partnership card, that cost is only 1 fund, and the peace player will decide to discard it so that the card is activated. Since its effect will be implemented, the card is removed from its position, the funds return to the pool, and the effects applied. The effect is that peace will gain +1, but in addition, any potential penalty on people or partnership for the next event phase will be reduced. So, since this has an effect that will be applied later on, the card is placed face up next to the board. Once this is done, the podium player takes 1 fund from the pool and places it on any available plan that has not been funded. In our case, in the partnership card. Lastly, all cards that are on the slots are moved counterclockwise so that they reach as close to the podium as possible. In our case, the card is already in the closest position, so we do not move any cards. After all these have been done, we reveal the top event card, applying its effect. Its effect is to reduce peace by 4. So, since our card here would offer protection against cards affecting people or partnership, it has no effect, and thus it is resolved and returned to the face down discard pool. We apply the effect of -4 to peace, and the card is removed. Then we are ready to begin a new round by moving the marker to the second place. At the beginning, during the preparation phase, each player will take 5 funds, draw a card, and the podium passes to the next player, which is the partnership player. Now, going on to the second phase, the partnership player will decide to place a card on the podium, and the round will continue similarly until the players reach the 10th round, or until they reach the final scoring position, which provides them their victory. Read the detailed rules in the rulebook and visit the website for additional information such as the trainer's guide, a quick version of the game, and other materials. Thank you for watching.